we'd all probably be better off if we went back and listened to the podcast we did with Mike Riley. We were kind of having that conversation of what's it going to be like, and it's we all kind of said it's going to be special. Like, no matter how it looks, like, it shouldn't be about the spectacle. It shouldn't be about the hoopla. And I get it's important, and you might feel that the luster has been lost if you've done things the way they used to be. But like, I think it's going to be kind of like the Woodstock of triathlon. Camping out for 3 days in the blazing heat, rocking it, having the best time ever. You got to take care of your own self. And it's the experience and it's the opportunity. And that's what I think we should all be most excited to get back.
Good morning, buddy.
Hey, it's Thursday. It's June 4th, 2020. Welcome aboard Crushing Iron Podcast 379.
You remembered.
I did. I've been doing a little bit of research. Yeah, I've been trying to keep up. Well, I'm getting older is the problem, so I'm going to have to start really paying attention to writing things down. I can't just go on the youth of the brain and the memory. I'm getting older, so I'm going to have to start paying a little more attention and not so I don't have that kind of senior fade that some of us. I'm not feeling it, man. I actually feel. Hey, listen, this is for a guy in recovery going on 7 years. Sober, I'm significantly healthier and livelier than I was at 33. So let's just say that. So I feel like I'm just getting started, man. I feel like I haven't even hit the peak, fitness wise of where I can be, or with life, or with, my professional career. I'm just getting started, man. 40 is the new 25. Is what I hear. But to be honest, I have zero desire to be 25 ever again. I'm pretty good with where I am. I can't imagine going back and being 25 again. I'm good.
Living that whole life.
I'll pass on that.
Too many temptations at that age. You've got better excuses now, and to stay out of the muck.
Well, and the fact that when you're 25, you feel like you're as wise and experienced as people who are 55. And then you look back and you think, look at those. Oh man,
don't get me going on that.
Look at those young pups. They think they know everything. And
but I did too, Yeah, I know.
Everybody did. Like, you're a senior in high school and you think that you're like this really old, basically you're an adult and you're like primed for your best career as soon as you set foot in college and the world is your oyster. And then you graduate college and you look back and you think, those kids are babies. And then when you're 30, look back and think when you're in college, you're like, I was an idiot. I knew nothing. And then you turn 40 and you look back and you think, boy, wasn't I an idiot when I was 30? That's just how it goes, man. I'm sure the same goes for when I'm 50, and the same will be for you when you turn 60.
But isn't there something to be said for like that whole idea of maybe we do know a lot more when we're younger, because as we get older, then, adults complicate everything and it gets all, simplistic views are kind of, all wise in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but it's also kind of terrifying to think that people that are that age feel like they have so much power and already know everything, and they've basically lived like a fraction or a quarter of their entire life.
Yeah, and the difference is they have an outlet now. We never had that. If I would have had Twitter when I was 18, forget it. I wouldn't be here.
No way, dude. I would be. Yeah, there's no telling. I mean, the way I decompressed in middle school was I'd get dropped off on the bus. My parents weren't home, and I just walked down to old Craig DeBell's house, and we'd watch MTV The Grind and hang out after school till 4 o'clock. And then go shoot some hoops. That's how we unwound. We weren't posting on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok, Tinder, or whatever they had these days. We were just kind of talking and chatting and hanging out. And I kind of miss those days.
I'd come home and watch the Cubs, like the day game, and fall asleep. That was kind of how I did it.
Oh,
Didn't say anything, just be like, this is boring.
Yeah, but hey. Speaking of not boring, we hope that is what you find our podcast today. Welcome again. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 379. We come to you twice a week, pretty much on Mondays and Thursdays. Occasionally we'll sprinkle in a little change of pace and do another day, but we cover triathlon, we cover all endurance sports, and we cover life. We cover how they intersect, how they complement each other, how they sometimes take away. We'll often do race recaps, which hopefully we'll be doing here shortly, as it looks like the race season is going to kick off, which is I'm super excited about that. I'm like amped. And we'll do race previews. We'll sometimes have on race directors and other guests, but for the most part, Mike and I, as both coaches and athletes, we just hop on the podcast with sometimes we have an outline, but for the most part, we just try to have an open, honest discussion. No agenda, no sponsors, no ads, just Ian and I talking about what we're going through personally, what we see in the endurance world, what our athletes are going through. Oftentimes we'll share stories from our own past because we have made massive mistakes, probably both on and off the race course. And the main goal for us is to share those experiences with you and hope that we can deliver that in an easily digestible way so you can consume it and apply it to your daily life in a positive way. And if you can avoid any of the same pitfalls or struggles that we have, then that'll be a huge win. So that's kind of the outline of, or the topic of what we usually try to cover each day. And who knows where it'll go. Sometimes it'll start off with MTV Unplugged and Cubs baseball. Some days it'll open up with triathlon. But hey, you never know what you're going to get. It's kind of like a box of chocolates, but we'll bring something hopefully beneficial to you in your life today.
Yeah, let's hope. Hey, it was good seeing you yesterday. It
was good seeing you too, man. I gotta say, I was a little shocked to see you rocking jeans in 90-degree weather. I think you're showing your age there.
I don't know why I did that. I swear, because I got a haircut, man, and I felt like
you wore jeans because you got a haircut. Is that like a prereq that I didn't know about? Like the new Phase 3 reopening of the state of Tennessee. If you're going to go out and you're going to get a haircut, you must wear pants.
I know. Well, you just don't know, man. Like I feel like exposed skin is a bad thing or something. I don't know. It just felt really official because they sent me all these texts about wearing masks and staying outside until you're welcomed in. And
where'd you get your hair?
They're in Chattanooga.
Yeah, I understand that because I told me.
Oh, get this, dude! It was that place we looked at. It was going to be the original hub.
Oh, that's like a fancy schmancy place, dude.
I know it wasn't that fancy though.
I should have sent you over to Frankie and Johnny's. That's where I go.
We can't go down that same hairstyle road.
We're not. Yeah, we can't do that. But yeah, I rolled up yesterday at the hub. We were going to go over stuff. How we're going to do layouts and graphics on the wall. And then there's Mike in 90-degree heat sitting outside with jeans on. And I got to admit, man, I thought you were showing your age a little bit there because I've got neighbors that are in their 60s and 70s. And no matter what time of year it is, they walk outside with like pants and a tucked in polo, not ready for basically any kind of like actual weather. They just kind of rock the same thing. And I did appreciate the water. I don't even know what I did with it. I don't think I opened it. But yeah, it was great seeing you too. As we walked through our the future C26 training center, which is the C26 Hub, and did a little bit of walkthrough, made some decisions, figured out kind of where things were going to specifically go, and even moved some things to open up some other spaces. And I don't know about you, and we won't dive into it. We won't make this the whole podcast today, but I don't know about you, man, but I left feeling super pumped. And
I do think it's worth talking about a little bit because people haven't been racing, and here we're going to have kind of a cool place where people can kind of get a little bit of a feel of that, getting back into the sport. You know what I mean? It's coming up. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what the hub has to offer. I mean, we never have ads, but I mean, this is our thing.
we don't. We're actually like somebody. You
want to talk about ourselves?
I know. I mean, I feel like we can do that sometimes, but I'm definitely not. I'm not on Instagram and I don't do anything else. But we had an athlete, Amanda Carney, who went to our swim camp last year, and we have our swim camp later this month, and she was like, "Where is the swim camp you're having? I can't even find it online." I was like, "Oh yeah, we're really good at marketing the old swim camp. It's online. You can find it. It's happening in July. Let me send you a link." But yeah, we don't do the best job sometimes. But yeah, we talked about it before. We probably haven't talked about it in a while, but we are opening we're calling it the C26 Hub. The sign is up. It's on the building, and it is it's going to be a training center, but it's also we want it to be like home. We want it to be a place where you can come, you can feel the community, you can get coaching, and you can be surrounded by awesome people with great opportunities, both on and off, both in and out of training. I think a lot of training centers provide outstanding opportunities to get better, which is what we all want to do. We all want to get better. That's why we're in the sport. We want to challenge ourselves physically and emotionally and mentally. And I think, and that's the piece that we wanted to bring to opening up a physical space. When we started doing this podcast podcast over 3 years ago, and we started doing this full time, and we had camps, and that was the biggest thing. We had camps, coaching, and community. And while I think, and sometimes I think people might understand this, is that over 95% of the athletes we work with don't even they're not even in the same state that we are. And so we coach all over the world, in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, England, Germany. I mean, we cover everywhere, and we could cover the camps, we can cover the coaching, but in terms of having an online community, which we have with our closed Facebook group, which is you can search Crushing Iron Group on Facebook to hop in there, and then obviously with our closed active athlete page for the athletes we work with, we really wanted a space. We really wanted a place for our athletes and any athlete to call home, that they can come, they can hop in the endless pool, they can get bike fits, they can go through bike workouts and testing, they can have group workouts. We can do the same thing with run. You can hop on a wood rate treadmill, you can go through run dynamics and analysis, and you can do workouts, and you can have things synced that are specifically from your training peaks. We can do all those things. But the most important thing we also wanted to offer was a space that you just felt comfortable with. It's one of the original visions that I had for it was I wanted it to feel like I felt when I walked in the AA room. And it's, obviously I say if you've never been, most of you haven't, 99.9% of you probably haven't, but one of the most comforting places on this planet for me is walking into an AA meeting, even though I probably don't personally know a single person in that room. You just feel at home there, and you feel at home there because people understand you, people get you, people are welcoming, people aren't going to judge you. You feel super comfortable in your raw, original form of who you just are as an athlete and a person. And that is something that I think is very rare in the society and the world that we live in. Everyone likes to judge, everyone likes to, profess, specific images, and, you can't be in our club, or you have to do this to be in our club, or you have to do this. And we judge and we restrict people, and the world has become more about exclusivity versus inclusivity. And well, that's what I wanted. I wanted us to have a space where people could walk in and feel accepted and feel comfortable and be not intimidated. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be, the front half is going to be a recovery lounge with Normatec boots, chill air. It's going to have coffee. It's going to have all these all wonderful things. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because I want us to get it up and put things out there and have a nice, cool reveal. But and then the second half of the space is going to be sectioned off. It's going to have a commercial size endless pool with its own room, walking through a door. It's got glass windows so people can watch it if they want. Full-on analysis, garage doors to be open up on a back patio that we can have as a community space. We're going to have smart bikes. We're going to have smart trainers. We're going to have wood weight treadmills. We're going to have it. And we're going to be able to offer, I think, the best of both worlds. We're going to be offering an outstanding training facility and a great one-on-one small group experience where we can host camps and retreats and seminars and presentations, anything you can think of. But the biggest thing is we want you to feel welcome, and we want you to know that everyone is welcome, and you can walk in there no matter how old you are, no matter if you're male, female, 20 or 80, if you're a beginner, if you're a professional, or if you're middle of the pack, you have a place there. And that is what's most important to me, and I know it's what's most important to you, is that we 5 or 6 years ago, when I was the director of operations for Iron Tribe Fitness, there was a book that the guy who started the franchise put out, and he talked about that third place, you had, which is a Starbucks model. They want you to have home, work, and Starbucks. That's what you think. And that's why a huge reason why Starbucks has been so successful is they have made it that third place. You just want to go there, even if you wanted to sit oh, let's go to Starbucks. It's that place you meet when you're not going to meet at home or work. It's like your indoor park or indoor meeting space. And that's the feeling that we want the community to have. And that's what we want our athletes to feel like, that are in Canada, that are in California, that are in, the Northeast, that they can come in town and they can have an immersive experience with myself, with you, the athletes that you coach, and then the other coaches that we'll have, is that we want them to have that one-on-one attention and truly bridge that gap between, because people ask all the time, it's are you, how convince me that, you should be my coach, and, when I could get somebody locally. And I'm not going to convince you, like, that's just not part of what I do. But, we don't, I don't believe that you should be confined to your specific geographical location, because at least you shouldn't, you don't minimize your opportunities like that in any other area of life. You look online for jobs, people look online for spouses. Like, you shouldn't be confined to finding people who fit your tribe, who want to be, and who fit that personality, who fit that character, who fit that culture. Like, you should be able to look everywhere for that, and you should be able to accept anyone from that. And that's what we want as well, is we want to bridge that gap between quote unquote remote coaching, when, let's be honest, like, if we've learned anything in the last 2 or 3 months, anything can be done remote. Most people have been working from home, running, $1 billion businesses with, employees across the world, from their PJs and their MacBook, hopping on a Zoom meeting. So you can do it, but it's about communication. And the biggest thing, though, is that we both, like, when we have camps, we've always had 3 camps a year. And I leave camp exhausted, but I'm never more energized throughout the year than after a camp. And it's because we get to see and be with people face to face. You get to get your hands on them and for swim and bike, and you get to just feel that energy. And that's what we want to provide. We want to provide both. And I went way off, much further down the rabbit hole than I intended to go there. But that is without going into huge detail like that, I guess that is the mission behind what we're trying to accomplish is that. And I think it's fairly unique. I'm sure there are other places like that, but that's what we want. We want it to be an extra. Like, we are investing in what our athletes are giving us, and we're putting it back to them by opening up this space. And that's something that's very, very important to both you and I, is that we have taken the last 3 years of success and what we've been able to accomplish, and we are putting it back into something that our athletes can continue to use and continue to take part of, continue to get themselves better, and just give us all a more opportunity to connect on, a personal and a performance level.
This may have been a unique experience for me, but when I started, my first race was over in Knoxville. And I remember how nervous I was and how out of place I kind of felt. I was just new to the sport, and I know a lot of people are new to the sport a lot. So, but when I got there, and I had a lot of questions, and this was the year before, I can't remember if you were over there or not, but the thing I remember is that I was asking a lot of people, or trying to talk. I'm pretty outgoing in general, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you're about as outgoing as I am. You're selectively outgoing.
Yeah, I have my moments. In that spot, I was like, hey, how's it going? I just remember running into a lot of walls, and it was really weird. I was asking people for some help, and it seemed like, I was inconveniencing them, and it sort of stuck with me. And I'm sure that's not everybody's experience, because I think most triathletes, for the most part, are pretty cool and everything. But there was this thing, and that stuck with me, and I think that sort of general impression stuck with you. And as we've evolved and kind of changed and started seeing this vision, that sort of was at the core of it for me, was like to create a genuine community. And what we are doing is, I love that you mentioned camps, because that is what happens when the camps come together and everybody meets each other, and after that sort of initial uncomfortable nature of things, it really ends up being one big family of people usually. And that's kind of how I see the hub, as sort of this getaway camp opportunity for people. It's like, I talked about camps a long time ago as this alternative vacation idea. I just want to come on to Nashville and get away with your friends and just go ride and swim and do the whole thing. And you don't have to go like on a 4-day weekend to party all the time. Well, that's kind of how I look at the hub, is sort of this getaway camp thing where you can come with a buddy or a friend or your wife or a spouse or whatever, and just spend a few days there in town. You can ride. There's a lot of great, it's a great training city anyway, and there's a lot of opportunity to do that. There's great restaurants and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to create, offer you a home away from home kind of thing. And that's what's exciting about it for me, is like you said, it's like, come on in and Yeah, I'm sure we've all done the bike shops. You walk in, you're like, hey, and they kind of look at you like, what the hell do you want? You know, it's like I want to be the opposite of that. You know,
Well, I mean, to be
if you don't know
fair,
what you're
triathletes are famous for rolling their bike in that they haven't cleaned or serviced themselves in like the past 8 months while it's sat on the trainer collecting salt from their sweat, and then they drop it in like the Thursday before a race, and they're like, hey, yeah, I mean, I need like the full work. I need the massive, the master tune up, the premium special, and I also need like new tubes, new tires. Go ahead and put a new chain on there. I'll probably go and get a new cage in front, new hydration system. And it's no big deal, man. Just take your time, I should get back by tomorrow at noon. And they're like, what?
that's true.
And then, of course, and then
we're busy.
Well, that's busy or just lazy with time management. And then they get the bike and they ride it for like one time. And they're like, oh my god, like this bike shop never gets my bike right. And then they go off this and they drop it off someone else. And like, listen, little tip of the trade: if you're gonna get your bike service and you're gonna get new cables and you're gonna get new housing, do yourself a favor and do it like 2 to 3 weeks out from your race. That way you can give some ample time for cable stretch to happen. Your gear shifting will change a little bit. You can get that dialed in before race day. Don't do it the weekend of. That's like a huge pet peeve of mine. And it really is. It's just procrastination and very poor time management. But yeah. Anyway, that's what I have today. Do you have any general topics today? So I feel like I just did like a really, like I feel awkward doing like a 15-minute infomercial. So is there anything that we can like get move the needle to a different direction and start talking about that? We'll have plenty of opportunities for the next 80 years talk about the hub and when we launch the everything. And so, but yeah, anything else you want to talk about besides ourselves? And
well, I mean, I haven't had a chance to watch it. I downloaded. I'm going to put it up in the hub or the online hub. Your Zoom call yesterday. I don't want to talk about that really, but I just wondered if you had any the news.
Yeah, man, I got a topic for you. I don't want to talk about it, but here, let me throw one up real quick, and I don't really want to get into it, but let's deviate. No, yesterday in our
general thoughts on races is kind of where I was.
Yeah. We do a weekly Zoom call with our athletes, and I started doing it because of the pandemic and nobody was going anywhere. People are going to be stuck at home, and I really wanted to. I feel like we do a really good job, probably overly. We probably overly communicate because I don't think half the team reads the emails I send out every week. But I feel like we do a really good job of communicating. I know the podcast helps because we're on, like, our athletes get to listen to us chat and for 2 hours a week, and then a Zoom call. There's another hour. There's 3 hours a week of unfortunately, I guess, listening to me. So no wonder they want to read my damn emails. They got too much overload. Like, sorry about that. But we do a weekly Zoom call. I'm going to continue doing them because I think it's provided a great opportunity for our athletes to just connect more, and for me as a coach to help deliver, some more. To be honest, just prepare them better and answer questions. And because if one person has a question, more than likely everyone, a whole handful of people also have the same question, and then 30 other people haven't even thought about it yet it would have been a question of theirs 10 weeks down the road. And so it's really been a great opportunity to open things up. And then I do them, and if the athletes can't make it live, you upload them to the online hub and people can watch them there. But yesterday I went through kind of, well, not really loosely, but I went over in an organized way, like the way that racing is probably going to look like here for the next few months and probably for the remainder of the year. I don't think that I'm not one of those people that thinks this is how racing is going to be forever, that we're only going to have virtual racing. That's not happening. Just like you had, all of your favorite people on Facebook in all the chat rooms and the closed Ironman Facebook groups that were like, you guys there's going to be no racing this year. You just need to plan on, there's going to be no camps. There's going to be no racing. In fact, there's probably not going to be professional sports till at least 2025. So you just need to get prepared. And then you wake up today and guess what? Athletes are racing this weekend. So, it just like be over. You don't have to be overly optimistic. Just be flexible and be positive. We talked about that on one of our last podcasts about, being positive and surround yourself by people who are hopeful and who will push you in a good direction. even if they're uncertain of the outcome and when it may happen. But racing is happening. I've got an athlete in Knoxville doing a sprint triathlon with a swim on Sunday. Like, races are happening, and then some of the bigger races are going to start taking place. Lubbock 70.3 happens in this month in Texas. It's a long-standing 70.3. It used to be, actually, way back in the day. I'm showing my age here. Back when I was racing, back in the 90s even, it was actually a Kona qualifier. Eagleman 70.3 actually used to be a Kona qualifier back in the day. It's a long-standing race held by two really, really outstanding race directors. And they're having it later this month. We have an athlete doing it who lives there in Houston, and then you're as of this moment, they're having Muncie. And so Ironman, Andrew Messick, if you get any of Ironman's emails, he sent out this big video about, we are going to do this and that. We're going to really empower you to be more self-reliant. Okay, they're not doing anything for you. Like, when they say they're empowering you, what they're doing is they're saying, get ready to race basically by yourself. So, like, I get how they're trying to gloss it over, but there is no empowerment there. It's like, it's kind of like my wife saying, hey man, could you go take out the trash and do the dishes? She's not empowering me, she's telling me. Like, that's basically the same thing. And so I think, I know racing is going to look significantly different than I used to. I also think it's fairly fascinating. I was having this discussion with an athlete earlier who's like, hey, my previous races this year were canceled. He was going to do his first 70.3 this year, and it's coming up in August, hasn't been canceled yet. And he was like, well, I don't really know. It's not going to be like, it's my first one. And I was like, hey, well, listen, man, like, it might not be an advantage, but it's going to be a brand new first time experience for everyone. Like, you're not going to walk up to the normal, big, huge production Ironman scene of a 70.3 or a full with kind of the hoopla and sometimes overwhelming. You're going to be walking and this is how it's going to be. So, to an extent, like I said, like, you're not working at an advantage, but the field has been leveled to a large extent versus, you having them done and coming to a brand new event, and now it's being totally different again. So, I think there's some positive there, but you're going to be required. I'm going to say not empowered, required to be more self-reliant on yourself. Totally, from the time you wake up on race morning to the time you get back to your hotel room, you are going to need to take care of yourself. And so yesterday in our Zoom call, I went through how I would treat waking up on the morning of 70.3 and a full, how I would carry, like, all the way down to, like, how I would carry my nutrition to the race start, what I would do about shoes, or saying, like, we're so used to, like, if you're in the, if you started a website called, sherpaservices.com, like, you're bankrupt probably right now, because those days are over for at least the rest of the year. Like, they're not going to be allowing excess people. They're minimizing touch points up to 90% from what I read on their website. Again, if you want to go and you haven't looked at it, I would recommend reading it. Either the USAC guidelines on return to racing, especially from the race director, or hop on Ironman.com, click on resources, and go back to their kind of race smart, quote unquote, initiative. But they're minimizing as many touch points as possible. That means they're not going to have wetsuit strippers, not going to have people taking things. You're going to be encouraged and or asked specifically to wear a face covering, but up until the time you get in the water. So I would not be shocked, and I would expect them to have not trash cans, but canisters or some kind of a drop-off point that you're going to be asked to wear a mask up until you walk in the water, and then drop it off. And then as soon as the race is finished, as soon as you're done getting your medal, you will also be handed a face covering. They're going to do everything they can to minimize risk, and also, most importantly, to make you feel comfortable. So you will come to race. So you will keep spending money. So you will keep registering for races. Like, that's the other part of it is, yes, it's about safety, but, let's be honest, it's also about optics. Like, we want you to feel safe. We want you to feel like you can come here. We want to be, inclusive and not exclusive. And so you need to be prepared to do that. And so I went through how I'd go approach a swim, how I'd approach my transition area, because they're going to have a little bit more space. And I also said, which I think is important, that just because you've done a race in the past, don't walk in and assume, like, a guy like you that's done, Louisville and Wisconsin repeatedly, like, let's say you're doing them again, don't walk up and think, oh, it's all, I know where the expo is, like, it's the same place, like, I know where packet pickup is, it's the same place, like, I don't need to go to a meeting, I don't need to be the athlete guide or the race course, like, it's just the same. Likely they're all going to be different because they're going to be restricted by how they want things to look logistically. So if they're changing touch points and they're changing areas where they're going to minimize, condensed areas, that could also lead to course changes, because what they don't want to have is, multiple loops where you've got, set 2 or 3 sets of people running north and then coming back on the same loop, and 2 or 3 sets of people running south, and they come together, and now you got 8 people within, a 10-foot window. They're going to try to minimize that. So they're going to look at more loop courses. They're going to change things as best they can to minimize that risk. So things may look drastically different. It will look like a brand new race, just in the same location. And then the other thing that I really, really drove home on, and again, I probably show my age and my over grumpiness sometimes, but I said that if you are an athlete who does the majority of their training inside, you need to get outside as much as possible. Just to be honest, because it's getting hotter, you need to get acclimated, but you are no longer going to be able to rely on being a fully furnished, catered event. You're going to need to be self-reliant. You're going to need to figure out what you need, exactly how much you need, how you're going to store it, how you're going to bottle it. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to keep getting bottles from aid stations and I'll be good to go, and someone's going to hand me my special needs bag. No, they're not. You're probably going to have to get off your bike and get it. And so you're going to need to think about these things. So you can't do your 5-hour rides in your trainer with your old guest room bar stool next to you with 6 water bottles on it, or with your little mini fridge in your pain cave and think, oh, I'm going to go get it, I'll be good to go, and then expect to race to figure, okay, how exactly am I going to cover? Am I going to carry all this? How is it going to impact how I'm training? How is it going to impact how I'm racing? Where do I need to store it? How much concentration do I need to have? How many fluids on board do I need to have? What exactly goes in my special needs bag? Like, that's going to look very, very different. So is the run course. They're still going to have aid stations every mile and a half, I'd imagine. But those are also going to look significantly different. Like, when they say they're minimizing touch points, that means they're minimizing volunteers as well in terms of who's going to be at these places. It's going to be a pretty much a self-supported event for the foreseeable future until it's not. And so that's going to take a huge mental shift from the way athletes used to operate. And then if you think about it, like the way that races that were fully stocked and fully supported before all this happened, is that, like, you still found races that ran out of water or Gatorade or whatever on the bike course or the run course. So can you imagine rolling up at mile 80 if you're bringing in, like you're a slower cyclist or a slower runner, and you're coming up to an aid station where you're assuming you're going to have something, and there's nothing. There's nothing, and now you're empty. Like, that's going to affect your race. So you're going to have to be overly prepared. You're going to have to be very hyper vigilant in terms of how you're preparing your special needs bag, what you're assuming you can have or whatnot. But the underlying theme is you should be prepared to do it all on your own. If you get help, you get help. And then it's better to have than to have not. Like, you should approach these races like, I have to personally set myself up for success. Because as type A, and organized as athletes are, so many athletes come into these races looking for freaking handouts. Like, they've always done it. Oh, I just expected they would have this, and I can't believe they ran out of my strawberry kiwi goo at mile 10. Like, I'm appalled. I sent a letter to the race director and asked for free entry next year. He hasn't gotten back to me, but I'll send him again. Like, it's true. Like, we read stuff like that. Like, people are just like,
people don't really email race directors.
Yes, they do. It's well, I'll say it's embarrassing, but it's just a shame. Like, but they go into these races thinking that they're like, all these things are going to be handed to them, and now it's all going to be taken away. So first and foremost, when you get back to racing and you go through an event, if you're able to just do it, don't complain. 0 complaint should come out of your mouth. You should be thankful for the opportunity and thankful for your health. Everyone is trying to figure this out right now in terms of how things are going to look, how things can be shaped. So be thankful about the opportunity to race. And for the most part, if the course has been cleared and you have a place to swim in a 56-mile bike course that's closed to traffic with cones and volunteers directing it, and you feel safe, and you have a run course that has tables set out every mile with no cars and no traffic, and you feel safe, dude, that's a huge win. That's a giant win. You should be thankful that you have that. So you shouldn't be expecting everything. If you're a person who can't change your tire or your tube, you best learn. because you're going to need to, again, carry those on person and be able to change that quickly. You should do it anyway. But there are a lot of athletes like, oh, well, if I have a flat, I flat. It's just the end of the day. Well, I tell you what I wouldn't want to do is be sitting in on the race course forever waiting for somebody to come 2 hours later while you're baking in the hot sun. I wouldn't want that either. So I think triathletes love to assume when it comes to what's going to be provided for them. But again, that's kind of what the call was about. I went over that kind of in pretty good detail in terms of how I would address from A to Z, what I would pack, how I would pack it, what kind of bottles I would use, and I went through that in full detail. And again, you can go in the online hub and find that.
It's just so wild to me, man. Maybe like 4 months ago, we were kind of probably saying, don't take all your nutrition. I mean, they've got stuff on the course. Don't panic. Don't overload your bike like you're driving, into Siberia, with no supplies or anything like that. And now it's just totally different. And just another example of how we really can't take anything for granted anymore or ever. And because I'm so anxious in a weird way like you about racing. I just want it to happen. I mean, it's like we've been in this cage and we're just like, oh my goodness, we don't know what's going to happen. We just got to see it and hope that kind of things sort of slowly get back to normal. But in the meantime, it's sort of like this unknown because we just don't know how anything's going to look. And like you're saying, it's just it'll look different. I'm sure they have a lot of ideas that they're going to implement that you're going to walk up there and you're going to be like, what? Is this a race? I mean, it may not even look like it. So it's just that mystery of the unknown, I think, that is just really tough to deal with. And I think that's just another reminder that we really have to stay focused on whatever we're doing today, because the more we try to figure out the mystery, the more confusing it gets, and the more stress and weight it can put on you in general. And, it could be, it seems to me like it's going to be like a kind of, not as exciting or whatever, but maybe it'll be cool. I don't know. You just don't know until you get there. And it may be one of those things, like you're saying, where just the laid backness of it and the lesser pressure and all that sort of thing really, falls into people's boats in a good way. So there's going to be that. And, it's just,
dude, how
so
can
weird.
It not be exciting? Like, I keep thinking, like, because let's shift back like 2 months. And I went through this in our Zoom call too. I was like, when people are like predicting, oh, this is how it's going to be forever. Well, if we rewind 60 days ago, most people were thinking, oh, dude, there's no racing this year. No one's racing. In fact, there's probably not going to be races in 2021. I'm like, first off, let's all slow our roll here. Like, people find a way, always. And they're going to happen. And they're already happening. There's trail races. There are triathlons. Like, they're happening. And so, like, if we've learned anything, like, on the way that we thought and what we thought we might not have access to, which is something that we love to do. Again, it's like, it means a lot to us. It doesn't mean a lot to, everyone else and like Joe Blow down the street. But, like, it means a lot to us. And, like, that if we'd all probably be, better off if we went back and listened to the podcast we did with Mike Riley, because we had him on and we were kind of having that conversation of what's it going to be like, and we all kind of said it's going to be special. Like, no matter how it looks, like, it shouldn't be about the spectacle, it shouldn't be about the hoopla. And I get it's important, and you might feel that the luster has been lost if you've done things the way they used to be. But like, I think it's going to be kind of like the Woodstock of triathlon. Like, there's great concerts and there's great things. They're in these like really fancy amphitheaters and halls, and everything's catered, and you roll up, and then you got ballet, and then you got Woodstock, and then you got Bonnaroo, and it's like dudes camping out for 3 days in the blazing heat, rocking it, having the best time ever. You got to take care of your own self, and it's the experience and it's the opportunity, and that's what I think we should all be most excited to get back. Not the hoopla, not the the expo, not the red carpet treatment. It's the opportunity, because that's all we ever ask. And that's what we were most frustrated and upset with or discouraged about was the removal of what we thought were opportunities. So remember that when we get back, is that if you have the opportunity to race and you choose to, then you should be so thankful that you have that. You have that opportunity to get back out there. And that should be exciting enough that you have it back, that it's now like you should be energized. You should be excited. Like, who gives a shit if you get the red carpet treatment and you're sad you're not going to have like the Ironman experience? Let me tell you from firsthand, like it's a kind of okay, but the experience itself is you and your race and the training you did. Like, it's kind of neat, but outside of that, like, the experience is what you make it. It's not up to the production. You do the production. You are it. They are just kind of the decoration on the wall. And that's how it's going to be no matter what race you do, no matter if it's a sprint local race, no matter if it's a trail race, no matter if it's a cycling event, no matter if it's open water swim or a triathlon or whatever it is. You're the production. You get to decide how your experience is going to be shaped. You get to decide how enjoyable it's going to be. You get to decide how you're going to frame it in how the day is going to go based on what you're trying to get out of it. Are you trying to get a good Instagram shot that's going to be your new Facebook profile, or are you trying to get an experience out of it? Are you trying to push yourself fitness-wise, see where you're at performance-wise, and hopefully you're going to be smiling, doing things and remembering like what it was like training during a pandemic, like what it was like coming out of this on the other side. Like, you're going to remember these things for the rest of your lives. Like, what was it like? Like, who was there, and what did it feel like? That's the biggest, my favorite moment of all triathlon ever, of anything I've ever accomplished, was that moment that you and I sat on the steps at Louisville waiting to get in the water last. I'd only been sober for a couple months, and that was like the last year that Louisville was in August. And all I cared about was that I was there. I was moved to tears before I got in the water, because I had gone through so much and we had gone through so much together that I was just so grateful for the opportunity to be there that I just couldn't stop smiling. I was smiling while I was swimming. Like, I generally do that anyway, but I was just so grateful that I was there, that I had made it. I didn't care about anything else than just soaking in the day, then soaking up the opportunity that I was both given, that I was presented, but also that I worked pretty damn hard for, and that I made it, and that I had every reason not to make it, but the day was going to be what I wanted it to be. And so it was based on being just flat out grateful and feeling very, very lucky and appreciative that I was there. And I think that while everyone's experience through this has been very different, some people have lost their jobs, some people have had difficult things happen at home, some people's businesses have gone crazy, and gotten good. Like, that's what the weird thing about this whole thing is, that it's affected everybody so differently. But you're going to look back on it and you're going to think, I was challenged in certain ways and I didn't give up. I kept training even though I was uncertain, and then yet here I am. I've arrived, but more of like, I'm still here. I didn't go away. I didn't stop. I'm still here. And that the day that you get, no matter when it is, no matter whether it's in June, July, August, December, next February, whatever day it is, you get to come back and you get to do these things. Instead of saying, what can I get out of the day? I wonder how I'm going to perform today. The first thing in your mind should be, that's right, baby. I'm still here. Like, I made it. Not I made it as in like it's some like brave, courageous thing, but like I did it. Like I made it through. I'm very, very happy with myself, and I think that's a mindset that we should all have.
Mm. You couldn't be more right, dude. As you're saying that, I just started thinking about it's really our responsibility in general, right, to make the most of what we have, no matter what it is, whether it's a training day or just today, or like maybe it's not all fallen into place perfectly or whatever, but the people that are happiest or whatever in general just seem to make the most out of what everything is. It's like, oh, we don't have this. Okay, so how are we going to, work around that, or how can we make it better with less, And that's sort of the mindset that I think is important. And when I'm in a good state of mind, I really get there. So it's like, oh, okay, well, we don't have, whatever, like all the party supplies we need. And well, how are we going to do, what are we going to do? Just sit around, or the power went out or whatever. How are we going to make this fun? Or like, I remember when we were kids, like doing stuff all the time that was we didn't have a lot of, we had, we wanted to play football a lot in the winter, and it snowed. We were watching an NFL game, and it would snow, and we go out and like shovel a football field in the front lawn, and just and doing those little things with nothing sometimes becomes the best experience, right? Like for me to even remember that is proof, I think, is that how it's like you always think about stuff like that in the weirdest way, how an experience can seem awful at the time, or just like but it turns out to be that memory, right, that you can like cling on to. So how are we going to make racing great even if it doesn't look like we think it should look, or the impression that we had in our minds beforehand? So you're right. I think it is all about making the best of the opportunity that is given. And if it's our own race anyway. It's like if there's not, if you can have your good friends around, and you might have more opportunities to meet people you might not have met, because that's another thing that happens at races a lot, is you kind of like, you go there in a clique of about 6 people, and you don't meet people that you wouldn't have met, and that's kind of a cool thing. And there may be opportunities on the race course to, meet people and talk about things that you never would have experienced. So there's always going to be opportunity, even in the situations where you think it's not like how you want it to be.
I think like some of the times in our lives where we've been most surprised, and when we've gotten things that we like, that it's when we weren't expecting it, or we were expecting something totally different. And that's like, most triathletes' worst nightmare. Like, we love to be control freaks. We like to know what's coming. We like to be prepared. We like to hop on our trainer and have it work perfectly. And, if it's not syncing perfectly, then, oh my God, then I'm going to spend the next 7.5 hours on with tech support because I have to have this done right now. Triathletes love that. They're type A. They have to have things work that way. And that's like, to me, that's not an experience. Like when you go into these races and a lot of athletes, like, that's one of the biggest areas of focus that I try to remove as a coach, is to like free athletes of that obsession of the metric and the expectation and that's how they should value and look at their runs and their rides and their swims as a pass or fail, instead of an opportunity for an experience. And then it is what it is. And it's the sum of all those experiences that add up, because on race day, and when you look back on your journey, it's like you don't look back and like oh well, at mile 13, that's what I remember about this year. It was like, usually it was a training day, right? Because like if you look back on your whole year, and let's say you raced twice, the other time you would have had 400 other training sessions. Those are probably going to take the cake when it comes to like what your most memorable experience was out of the year. And if we put I feel like when you put so many expectations on things, you hinder yourself from performing the way you need to, because you don't race freely. But you put so much pressure on it with this huge expectation that if it doesn't live up to it, then you're left with nothing. And if you just I think if you go into races just like you go into training with a blank slate, with today is going to be what it's going to be, and the only thing that matters is my effort and my execution. And if you go into the race with that kind of perspective, then as long as you do those two things, then the race is a success. The experience is a success. When you're chasing things, or when you're fearful, or when you're afraid you might not meet an expectations, or you're so close to this certain time last time that if you don't get this time, you're going to be devastated. I can't imagine racing under that thought, because there is no, to me, there is no real success. I mean, if you do meet that threshold, it's either you met an expectation, which to most people isn't even that exciting. It's, oh, well, I should have done it, so I just did it. Or you fell short, and now you feel like you're a failure, or you've taken a step backwards, or you're not good enough. Like, embrace the flexibility that should be your perception of how races should go, and how races should be, and how they should impact you on a personal level and a performance level. Like, yes, should you care about your performance? Absolutely. You should be wanting to get better, and that's important. But in terms, and I know athletes can be driven by that. There's nothing wrong with being driven by performance and being driven by getting better. But if it swallows up your ability to enjoy and love the process, then you're missing out. And the truth of the matter is you're going to find yourself hating what you do. You're going to find yourself never measuring up. you're going to find yourself on a relentless pursuit for never feeling good enough, instead of being immersed in a process that you get to lead, that you get to be a part of, and that makes you feel good. And then along the way, you get races, and you get to perform, and you get to feel awesome. And you get to also have those training days and those workouts where you shock yourself, where you look back and you think, like, this is the lightest I've ever been. This is the greatest. This is the fittest I've ever been. Like, this is awesome. And then you move on to the next day and you keep going. You don't measure yourself by the workout you did last Wednesday, yet people do that with races, because we think that races are these truly special days where, the universe and God basically stop all things and say, but Ironman Lubbock is to happen today. The world shall be perfect. The wind shall be calm. The temp shall be pleasant. Your bike will be perfect. Everything should be laid out for you, and you will wake up today feeling like $1 million. That's not the case. You wake up, you might feel good, you might feel bad, the weather might be crappy, the weather might be perfect, you might have a flat tire, you might drop a bottle. Like, things are imperfect, life is imperfect. That's why you have to be flexible. You have to be able to roll with the punches, and it's the people that roll with the punches that can keep absorbing those punches and still be there and be like, yeah, dude, I made it all 12 rounds, baby, here I am still standing, and it was awesome. Versus the person who gets takes a small jab to the elbow in round 2 and it's like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. It ruined my perfect day. Like, you have to be flexible with that. Like, hopefully we've learned something about ourselves about being flexible and like that opportunity and taking those moments and running with them. And that should be the same, that should be the same approach that you take to racing, is in these opportunities that we have, not just this year, but next year and the years to follow. Like, they're opportunities and their experiences, and you can make the most out of them, and you can gain so much than just trying to meet a measuring stick or an expectation that more than likely you pulled out of nowhere.
Well, I know that I'm in my best place when I accept the idea that change is constant and things happen, and the more I hold on, and I'm kind of old school, you know me, man, kind of hold on to things.
You are definitely old school.
I do, man. And I know that it's just, but I'm not that way with everything, but like, it seems like with sports and just certain things, I have that like old school mentality where I don't want anything to change and never be different. And it never works for me, right? It creates that grumpy kind of like bitter sort of side. And when I understand that change is happening and you just kind of roll with it, that's just, life gets easier if you can get into that mindset, right? And this is how I think we got to approach this with racing. I mean, it's not going to look the same right now. Maybe we'll get back to how it looked, and I'm sure we will, hopefully sooner than later, with some better changes that make it more enjoyable for everybody. But I think to fight it is really at the crux of what the problems can be for us. So just to let go, just like you'd let go on a run, just let go. It's like the more we kind of try to hold on to things, the tougher it gets, because we really don't, nothing's really ours. And the more we try to control everything, the more tension we hold in our bodies, and the tougher life seems to get, instead of just going with the stream.
Going with the stream, man.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one. Going with the stream. Go with the flow, baby. Go with the flow.
Let's do it.
Man, that was a good one. I enjoyed that.
Good. I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
I did too.
But hey, as always, we appreciate you tuning in, especially if it's your first time listening. Thanks for hanging tough through our MTV talk. Hopefully you got something. Hey, we're probably probably one of, if not the only podcast that can start out with MTV Unplugged and Cubs baseball and end with something like we did today. We know you have a lot of opportunities. There's tons and there's millions of podcasts out there, and there's plenty of triathlon podcasts. So we appreciate you giving us an hour of your time to soak in our thoughts for today. Hope you got something beneficial out of it. If you have any questions about all the other things that we do, you can go to our website, which is C26Triathlon.com, and we offer that kind of really highlights all the things that we do with camps, coaching, and community. And I do want to make a specific note here, is that we coach. The podcast is Crushing Iron, the C26 Triathlon's website, but we coach everyone. No, regardless of sport. And I don't do polo coaching, or other things like that.
Water
but
polo, maybe, right?
Water polo, yeah, actually probably could, man. It's like, no, not really. But we coach athletes we coach 30 or 40 athletes who just have running goals. We coach athletes who just have triathlon, from beginner to double Ironmans. We have athletes who are training for the English Channel in 10, 15 mile, 20 mile open water swims. We have, athletes who are training for multi-day stage race cycling. Like we there are specifics that are, I generally feel that endurance sports in general is all 80% the same, and then it's a 20% that needs a tweak depending on the event and depending on the distance. We have athletes who are just doing trail running, and ultra running. Like we cover it all, and so don't think that for 1 minute it's just about triathletes. We coach a wide variety of athletes, and I love that because I also love feeling confident and comfortable as a coach, pushing athletes in different directions and allowing them to know that they should accept where they are in life. And I think, in terms of what fits their needs. And I have conversations like this every month or every other week, especially right now with athletes who are kind of battling what they've signed up for and what they want to do versus where life is. And I love the fact that I can work and talk with the athletes and push them towards a different direction that's not doing a triathlon, that our relationship totally isn't based on them doing an Ironman or them doing you should hang up the bike and swim right now and you should just focus on running because it's going to make you happy. And that's all we care about is athletes that are happy and healthy. And we can do that through all kinds of avenues. It's not just about, finding yourself in triathlon, it's about finding yourself in sport and challenging yourself in ways, and also understanding where you are and who you are in life. And if it's just running, if it's just cycling, if it's just swimming, then let's do that. Like, it's about having fun. And if I had this specific conversation with an athlete today, the other day, he was like, I just can't. And I think it's important to share because I feel a lot of athletes have this conversation in their head. They just don't share it. And he just kind of dropped a comment in Training Peaks, and I followed up with a few things about, where he said he was struggling with motivation and doesn't understand why he can't be motivated or why he can't get his act together. And and so I just asked him, I said, well, what do you really want to do? A lot of times it's not that we're not motivated or not energized, it's that we're trying to put it in a direction that's not conducive to who and where we are in life. And I said, well, what does get you fired up? And he said, well, I've got Ironman Texas and I have all these things that, I really want to do it this year, but I also kind of wanted to do, go back and tackle this 50 and this 100-mile trail run that I DNF'd a few years ago. I want to go back and do that too, but I don't want to commit to that because I don't want to lose my triathlon fitness. And I was like, so let me get this straight. You're sticking with the sport that you're not motivated to do, and we're missing workouts. And so you're not really progressing in this area because you don't want to lose fitness by doing this other area that you really feel compelled to do, that you really feel energized to do, that you can't do. So I was like, so you tell me I feel like we answered our own question here. You tell me what direction we should go. And he was like, you're right. Because he's a lot of athletes are standing in a doorway. They're not going from anywhere. They're not coming from anywhere. And that's what I said. It's better to be moving positively in a direction, fitness-wise and performance-wise, and most importantly, life-wise, that makes you feel healthy, that you're supporting yourself through, setting yourself up for success with training. It's not, if you don't have time for it, you don't have time for it. If it's not something that gets you out of bed and excited to do, then don't do it and find something else. Like, it's about being happy. It's about pushing yourself, and that doesn't have to be in one sport. It can be in any sport, and it can look different year to year. And I've got athletes that go between a million different sports every year because it's what excites them. They like the variety. And so just know that if you're listening, it's okay to listen to your mind and not your, past registration history. Feel empowered, then just do what makes you happy and do what's going to make you feel good about your whole life, not just fulfilling a registration. And I think it's important for every athlete to understand, whether they have a coach, they're personally coached, that you should know that that's something you should support yourself in that area.
Very well said, man.
Thank you. We'll be back on Monday. Better than ever. Well, hopefully better than ever. That's kind of a
better
saying.
Than ever.
Yeah, just edit that out. Forget I ever said that. That's speaking of expectations. That's a lot to live up to. But we'll be back Monday. Hope you have an awesome weekend. If you're out there racing, have fun. If you're out there training, have fun. Enjoy the experience. Enjoy what you do. If you have any questions or comments or need anything, you can always contact Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you have any questions or comments for me about anything, coaching, camps, community, or just general feedback, you can always reach out to me, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right. Did you mention the website, C26 Triathlon? Stop by there. Check out the online hub. Lots of good C26 driven philosophy, videos, bonus podcasts, athlete profiles, articles, you name it. And it's just sitting there. C26 Triathlon.
It's just sitting there. It's sitting there waiting for you.
Waiting to be consumed.
That's it, man.
Thanks to everybody who's been coming in, and we appreciate it. Helps us. All right, man.
Sounds good, dude.
Thank you, and I will be talking to you on this Monday, if not before.
That's right. Yeah,
See you, buddy.
Down, be out.